What Persona girl?
Oh my gosh, hi! Do you want an autograph? Do you like Persona 2?
No, I just want to say that you were like, who even is that on your shirt? Like,
Who even is that? Akihiko Solangro or something?
Oh, actually, it's Akihiko Sanada from Persona 3.
Oh, sorry, wasn't really a question. Actually, I don't care. Kind of weird. Kind of weird.
yeah, like, I don't want to forget.
Hurts. Oh no, I'm falling.
Okay.
Oh no.
Concert ticket reform, saying prices are too high. Artists like
Hey guys.
If we put neon into the person's veins,
Yeah,
if they make the,
oh
my god, wait, what is that? Oh my god, no!
Oh, you're banned again. I hate Persona. I hate Persona. Banned
I
kid.
know!
Oh god, that Persona girl. No, you're done for it. You're banned. Get out, Persona fan. Persona's banned. Get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. I'm gonna be sick. I'm gonna be sick. Can't believe you like Persona.
Oh my god, I can't
I hate
believe you've done. No!
Hey man, what's wrong? Are you getting bullied because of Persona? I'm getting bullied because I'm Persona girl. Oh my god. Don't worry. We are in this together, girly pop. It's okay. It's okay. Thank you. Live, laugh, love, Persona. Persona.
I seriously considered not doing this review at all, because I realized that the majority of projects I've done this year for INN have been Persona-based in some way. Have a happy spring break, and play Persona 3 Reload, now available on Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation. To the point that I've actually been called Persona Girl by people I don't even know. And while that's absolutely hilarious, at least to me, do I really want that to be my high school legacy? Like, do I want people to yell Persona Girl at me at graduation? And then I realized that I don't actually care enough. It's my autism, my special interest, so I get to choose my final project. And if it ends up being an hour long, then oh well, I guess. So, Persona 3 Reload. I reviewed the original game back in October and made a small promotional video for the remake on the day it released back in February. I've been waiting not so patiently for the game ever since it got announced way back in June of last year, and while I do have some mixed feelings about certain aspects of it, I would overall say that it's a beautiful game that does justice to the original and has cemented its place as one of my favorite games of all time, even despite the short period that's elapsed since its release. Starting the same way I started my FES review back in October, let me go over what Persona even is. The Persona series is a video game series of social simulation JRPGs, which stands for Japanese role-playing games if you're not a nerd, which feature an equal mix of visual novel-like social sim gameplay and more traditional turn-based combat. Persona 3 originally released for the PlayStation 2 in 2006 and was pretty different from the previous 3 entries in the series. It was the first to truly elaborate on the social simulation aspects of the game, and also the first game to be in full 3D. With those factors combined with an intriguing story that many enjoyed, it quickly became a cult classic, and as many fans begged for a remake, we finally got one on February 2nd, 2024. There are many, many things for me to talk about with this game, to the point that I actually had to cut some things out. Yes, even with as long as this video is, I still had to cut things out. So, for convenience sake, I will be splitting this video up into 7 different sections. Each will be labeled with a title card, so you can easily skip to a certain segment that interests you. In order, I will be talking about the story, combat, quality of life changes, characters, aesthetics, spoilers, and finally, my conclusion. This is not a game you want to have spoiled for you, so if you have not played this game before and have any interest in doing so, I recommend that you skip the spoilers segment entirely. And, before I start, let me clear some things up so that this video has a target audience of more than one. Persona 3 can actually refer to 4 different games. Yes, I know that makes me sound insane, but hear me out. The original Persona 3 came out for the PlayStation 2 in 2006, and 2 years later, a slightly updated version came out, and that was called Persona 3 FES. which is the game that I reviewed back in October. FES added a new social link, some side quests, and an epilogue entitled Episode Aegis or The Answer, which I will not be covering in this video because it is currently unreleased DLC for Persona 3 Reload. Then, in 2009, Persona 3 Portable came out for the PSP. This game was quite different than the other two, featuring a more visual novel-style format, a lot of quality of life changes, and, most notably, the option to change your protagonist's gender. The female protagonist had a lot of unique dialogue, social links, UI, characterization, and I'm sad to say that she is not present in Persona 3 Reload. I do make references to her throughout this review, as Persona 3 Portable is my favorite game of all time and she means a lot to me, but just know that I am only using her as a point of reference and that she is not present in the remake. I also make a lot of references to social links throughout this review, and in case you didn't watch my FES review, which I don't blame you, it's actually not my favorite thing in the world, these are the social simulation half of Persona 3's gameplay. You can form bonds with your female party members as well as a bunch of NPCs, and these bonds provide both interesting stories and the option to create better personas. I will go over some of these social links in depth later, but for now, I figured you should probably have some idea what I'm yapping about. And now, without further ado, let me begin the most embarrassing possible way to end my senior year of high school. In Persona 3, you play as Makoto Yuki or Minato Arisato, a 16-year-old orphan boy who has just transferred to Port Island, a man-made Japanese island. You move into the Iwatodai student dormitory at the start of the game, but not everything is as it seems. Something is strange during your commute there, but you brush it off for a few days. Upon arriving, you are greeted by a strange boy that later names himself Pharos, who tells you to sign a contract to accept responsibility for your actions. Eventually, the chairman of the dorm tells you that a day consists of more than 24 hours, and that there is a hidden period at midnight known as the Dark Hour that only a few select people are aware of. You also learn that the dorm you've moved into isn't a normal student dorm, but is instead the home of SEAS, which stands for the Specialized Extracurricular Execution Squad. SEAS takes up the front of a school club, but they actually operate during the dark hour with the goal of taking out shadows. Shadows are creatures that roam around during the dark hour and attack anyone that is awake during it that doesn't have a persona. Personas are like the opposite of shadows. They represent a person's strength and determination. Each person can possess only one persona at a time, except for your protagonist, who has the unique ability to possess and fuse an infinite number of them. When certain people are attacked by shadows, they begin to experience apathy syndrome, which is a disease that makes it so that people stop caring about anything and everything and eventually have to be hospitalized. SEAS's goal is to learn more about shadows and to eventually destroy the Dark Hour entirely. The Shadow's nest, as you could call it, is a giant spiraling tower called Tartarus. Tartarus is only present during the Dark Hour, as it takes the form of the school during the day. Before you and a few others joined, the team was unable to investigate it due to having very few members, but now they have the resources to do so, and they appoint you as their leader due to your unique ability to possess multiple personas. There isn't much more I can elaborate on without getting into spoilery territory, but this is all you need to know about the basic story of Persona 3. In fact, this is pretty much all you do end up learning for a decent chunk of the game. Many have complained about the game's pacing, saying that the first half is too slow-paced and mundane, but I honestly have to disagree. After having played through Persona 3 3 times now, I can personally say that the intro of the game isn't as much of a slog as people say. I do have some issues with pacing later in the game, but I can't talk about those here. I can confidently say that some of Reload's changes to the game's combat do help with pacing, however, which brings me into
Special attack! Ultimate taste some!
In the original game, Tartarus was fairly repetitive to explore. There were chests to open, teleporters to return you to the entrance, enemies to fight, and staircases to take you to the next floor. That was about it, and if repetitive gameplay isn't your thing, it could get tedious very quickly. Reload keeps this largely the same, but with the addition of new collectibles called Twilight Fragments. These fragments can be collected through optional side quests and new breakable objects, and a few can be found in the overworld as well. These fragments can be used to heal your team in open locked chests, which contain weapons, armor, and strong healing items. You can also now run through Tartarus as opposed to being forced to walk, and certain actions in the overworld unlock the ability to ambush the enemy shadows, which makes exploration a lot more fun. There are also a lot more checkpoints within Tartarus, which makes shorter play sessions much easier and eliminates some potential frustration of being unable to find a save point. Combat-wise, however, a lot more has changed. The general system is the same. You have your protagonist and 3 party members, 6 elemental skills and 3 physical ones, and attacking an enemy's weakness knocks them down and allows you to attack them once again. All of your party members have 1 persona, except your protagonist, which can fuse an infinite number of them, and knocking down all enemies in a fight allows you to perform a special all-out attack. This is the general gameplay loop for the combat side of things. The biggest change to combat is that, similar to Persona 3 Portable, you are now able to directly control your party members. In the original game and Persona 3 FES, you could only directly control your protagonist, and you had to give your other party members orders through a menu of various tactics for them to use. This provided a challenge and helped to cement your party members as their own unique characters, but it could occasionally be frustrating to lose a battle due to the fault of the AI. Though I do prefer Portable and Reload's combat system, I do wish the game had an option to use the original control scheme. However, a lot of the original tactics are still present, so I guess it's not that bad. Speaking of difficulty, a lot has been done in the ways of making the game more accessible. The biggest of these changes is the all-new Theurgy attacks. These attacks are unique to each party member, and are activated by a different action for each of them. For example, Yukari's first Theurgy does severe wind damage to one enemy, and is activated by using her healing spells. I say first because every character other than the protagonist eventually gets 2, but I won't be showing them here for spoiler reasons. These Theurgy attacks make the game a lot easier, especially when it comes to boss fights. They do a lot of damage and can be charged up fairly easily, so there's nothing stopping you from spamming them whenever you have the opportunity. On top of this, there are also new party member combat characteristics, which also help to make the game easier. These characteristics range from improving buff duration to halving the cost of healing spells to even increasing physical damage, and can be unlocked and leveled up through another new feature that I will touch on in the character segment. There is also a brand new mechanic called shifting introduced in Persona 3 Reload, and it's similar to the baton pass from Persona 5. It allows you to pass the extra turn you get from hitting an enemy's weakness onto one of your other party members, allowing them to hit other weaknesses. This system is more balanced than it was in Persona 5 Royal, and it's very convenient. However, there is one change to the combat that I really dislike. In the original game in FES, your protagonist could use the weapons of almost every party member, and they all played differently. They removed this in Persona 3 Portable due to animation constraints and not wanting to animate the female protagonist using every weapon type, and it unfortunately did not return in Persona 3 Reload. This isn't a huge change, but it was still a bit upsetting. Being able to use different weapons added a layer of strategy to the game. The weapons had different range outside of combat, different damage and accuracy, and even different attack types, so losing that layer of complexity to combat is sad to see. I don't understand why they did this either, since Atlas clearly doesn't have those animation constraints anymore. With both this and the female protagonist gone, I sometimes wish the game had a bit more time to cook, and it sucks that I'll never get to see the female main character using boxing gloves or bows in combat. Overall, I'm glad the game was made more accessible, but it was way too easy for me. The original Persona 3 wasn't necessarily the Dark Souls of weeby JRPGs or anything, but I still found myself having a fun amount of difficulty with it. With Reload though, I felt like I was constantly over-leveled even from the very beginning of the game. I only died about 3 times in my playthrough, and one of those was because I just got bored and stopped paying attention. I'm sure some players will appreciate the reduced difficulty, but personally, it wasn't for me.
Time to raise the roof and elevate this garden to new heights. And to top it off, eat your veggies. Peas.
The main reason people wanted a remake of Persona 3 in the first place is because the original game had a lot of strange, unintuitive design choices that I personally believe were the result of the design team blindly throwing darts at a dartboard. For example, in the original game in Persona 3 FES, you didn't have the option of fast travel around the map. You can travel from your classroom to another location by talking to this one random NPC that you have no reason to talk to without prior knowledge, but other than that, have fun wandering around aimlessly trying to find available social links. Speaking of which, the game doesn't communicate when social links are available through the map like Persona 4 and 5 do, so you're going to be glued to a guide or wiki page if you want any hope of completing them all in a single playthrough. Reload fixes both of these problems by allowing you to access the map anywhere. This new map will communicate when both social links and side quests are available in a certain area, and will even tell you what characters you are able to rank up on a certain day. You can even directly teleport to certain areas within a location, which saves time spent walking to the same place over and over again. Another thing many disliked about the original game is that you were forced to romance every girl you got to a certain rank with. The game would tell you that you were already in a relationship, but it still wouldn't allow you the option to friend zone anyone. The romance was embedded into almost every female social link too, which had the side effect of occasionally making them feel like one-dimensional dating sim characters rather than being multifaceted like they were in the main story. But in Reload, you aren't forced to cheat on your girlfriend anymore. They changed all of the female social links to have both a friendship and romance route, and the new friendship scenes are just as good as their romantic counterparts. This makes them feel much more human than they did in the weird, no-consequences harem route that the original game forced you into. A complaint that I didn't hear as much from others but deeply annoyed me was that there was a lot of dead time in the game, especially during nighttime segments and in-game breaks from school, where there are very few activities and social links available. This was mainly an issue for the Persona 3 portable female protagonist due to the timing of some of her social links, but the male protagonist suffered from it as well. Thankfully, Reload fixed this issue and more. There is now an entirely new area to visit at night that was previously exclusive to daytime segments, Iwatodai Strip Mall, and it features a brand new banger song called Color Your Night, which is currently playing in the background. This new area features shops, restaurants to raise your social stats in, and a brand new internet cafe exclusive to Reload, where you can buy programs to use on the computer in your dorm. These programs do various things like raising social stats, unlocking new abilities, and one program that can be purchased late game even has the ability to raise your stats with social links, even when they aren't available. These new activities, and more that I will touch on in the character section, add a ton more things to do during nighttime, and I'm very glad that Reload added these things. And I wasn't sure where else to put this, so I'll just tack it in now, but you can now grow vegetables on the rooftop of your dorm.
Great vegetables.
These vegetables can be useful in combat and for healing, and they don't take a day or nighttime slot to grow. All of these additions make the game feel much more alive and active, and it's nowhere near as much of a slog towards the end as the original was. One final complaint that was addressed in Persona 3 Reload is background leveling. Persona 3 and 4 have the same issue when it comes to this. Both games provide a ton of unique and interesting party members to use, but no way to level them up without using them in combat. Both games allow you to only use 3 additional party members at a time, so if you want to be able to utilize your entire team, you'll have to waste time swapping them in and out and grinding much more than you need to. This causes your protagonist to get overleveled and is just generally not ideal nor fun, so most players opt to stick to the same team once all party members are unlocked, which can make the game become stale near the end. Persona 5 fixes this issue by having a social link that allows backup party members to earn experience as well, but how did Reload do this? Clocks. Occasionally, after opening certain chests in Tartarus, you will find a giant clock that you can interact with. Interacting with these clocks prompts you to choose 2 party members to level up. These party members will become the level of your protagonist in their next battle, and gain all of the skills up to that level. This makes swapping characters in and out a viable option, and allows the player to experiment with their team without being punished for it. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, let's go over what some of these party members are actually like, shall we?
Unwelcome guest, disregarding request, putting these enemies in forever breath.
A lot of changes have also been made to the characters and social links in Reload. But before I go over those changes, let me go over the characters themselves. I'll only be talking about the C's characters here to save time, as talking about every social link individually would take up an unnecessary amount of time and make this even longer than it already is. Yukari Takeba is the first character you meet after Pharos, and she doesn't seem too fond of you at first. She's a pretty average teenage girl on the surface, can be a bit mean and snappy when angered.
Man, this is a tough case, even for Junpei Iori, ace detective.
Ace detective? You're so dumb. More like Stupe, ace defective.
Where'd that come from?
But is overall a kind person with a big heart. Mitsuru Kirijo is the second character you're introduced to, and she's pretty different from Yukari. She's the president of the school's student council and places a huge importance on education above everything else. She is motivated by her past and operates as the second leader of C's.
Your ramen is absolutely wonderful. It's been a while since I last gave my compliments to the chefs. What do you use for the bouillon?
Bouillon? The hell is that?
Junpei Iori is your carefree classmate who tends to slack off and goof around, but has a big heart.
Good evening, and welcome to Junpei's Believe It or Don't. There are many strange things in this world.
He can be jealous and a bit perverted at times, but he is still a good friend, especially to the main character. Akihiko Sanada is your confident yet awkward in social situations upperclassman and is captain of the school's boxing team.
Oh, humor. Humor. You know the beef bowl place? Hey, maybe we could meet up there? Huh? Get it?
What am I, the chairman? Screw this.
Akihiko has a crowd of fangirls that follow him everywhere, but he doesn't seem interested in them. He instead mainly cares about his strength and keeping those around him safe due to having lost his sister at a young age. Fuka Yamagishi is a shy and somewhat timid girl that acts as the team's navigator. She tries her best to help out the team, but she can be a bit nervous at times. She is a questionable cook, but she is a very kind-hearted person.
But other than that, why not try putting whole lemons inside the rice balls?
Lemons? That sounds very unique, but also like a wonderful idea. I'll try making both your recipe and my own right away.
Aegis is a combat robot that joins your team to help kill shadows, but she has a weird fixation with the main character that she doesn't quite understand.
Now I am certain. I have found you. I have been searching for you. My highest priority is to be at your side.
Her primary objective is to keep you safe and stay by your side, though the ways she does this are interesting, especially towards the beginning of the game. Though Aegis is a robot, she eventually learns to act more human throughout the game and serves as a sort of mascot for the game itself. Koromaru is a dog. That's it. Just a dog. Not a talking dog or a human in dog's body. Just a dog. There's not much to say about him. He joined Seas because his owner passed away and he wanted something else to protect, but I love him anyway.
Shake. Is shake the command given to request paws on one's head? I comprehend.
Ken Amada is an 11-year-old elementary school student with a determination to fight. He lost his mother due to an accident at a young age and has been forced to mature quickly ever since then.
I chose a long weapon so I could match the reach of an adult. But then I learned that long weapons are actually better suited for tall people. Oh, I hit my shin again. Jeez, I hope I get taller soon.
He is extremely strong-willed and determined, but what is his reason for fighting? I guess you'll have to play the game to find out. Shinjiro Aragaki is a lot. You learn that he is a former member of Seas, but quit before you arrived at Port Island for unknown reasons. You often see his best friend Akihiko trying to convince him to rejoin, but he always brushes him off. Shinjiro is seemingly cold and distant, but he has a bit of a soft side buried underneath all of that. He enjoys cooking and playing with Koromaru as much as he would never admit that to anyone.
You can head back to your room once you're finished. I'll handle the cleanup. I'm gonna give some to Kora-chan. I gotta make Koromaru's dinner still. You got a problem?
So, that's all of Seas. I have to say, Persona 3 has my favorite cast out of any Persona game, aside from maybe Persona 2 Innocent Sin. So, with that out of the way, let's talk about the ways you can interact with these characters. The biggest change added in Persona 3 Reload is the inclusion of new character-based events, called Link Episodes. These were added due to the male main character weirdly not having social links with any of the 5 male party members or spoiler character for reasons that are completely beyond me. Going into the game, I was anticipating these events to be similar to the female main character's social links from Persona 3 Portable, but for better or for worse, I was wrong. I'll go over each of the 6 linked episodes individually, saving Shinjiro and Redacteds for the spoiler section near the end of the video. The first character's link episodes that you unlock is Junpei's. Junpei's linked episodes were great. The first few aren't super deep but are still funny and enjoyable, but later episodes have a lot of character development and depth within them. The only issue I have with these link episodes is something I will talk about later because it involves spoilers, but other than that, I actually preferred these to a social link in Persona 3 Portable, which was somewhat bland and didn't stick out much to me.
No matter how motivated I get, it's getting me nowhere. Been that way since I played baseball.
The second character's link episodes you unlock is Akihiko's, and I didn't like Akihiko's link episodes. But before I discuss why, let me go into a little tangent about him and why I love and hate his character so much. In his social link in Persona 3 Portable, Akihiko is shown to be kind, if not awkward and sometimes socially inept. He lost his parents and his sister at a young age, and trains hard in boxing because he doesn't want to lose anyone else and doesn't want to feel powerless again. The Japanese version of the game also has a running gag that he is obsessed with protein, but this was largely removed in the original English dub. And then the spin-off games happened. The fighting game Persona 4 Arena was the first step into the mischaracterization of Akihiko. The game shows the Persona 3 cast aged up by 2 years, and while I have issues with a few of these interpretations, the worst is Akihiko's by far.
A true man is only allowed to cry when he loses his wallet.
He hasn't changed at all from back then. He's stupid, honest, proud, kind, and a crybaby. And a crybaby. And a crybaby.
For some reason, he is depicted as someone who values training and strength above everything, all while completely dismissing the reason he valued that strength in the first place. He isn't training to protect his loved ones anymore, he's doing it because he thinks it's fun. On top of this, they restored his protein running gag from the original Japanese version, but made it 10 times more frequent and annoying. This trend continued with every other Persona 3 spin-off, excluding the dancing rhythm game for some reason, which got him weirdly accurate for a game created entirely for fan service. He became extremely dense and stupid, obsessed with training, and rarely talking about anything other than athletics. This flanderization continued into Reload, and it's so prevalent that the majority of his new dialogue is about training, fitness, or protein in some way. In fact, listen to this clip from his new voice actor describing his character.
Akihiko is a lot of things. I mean, he's obsessed with protein and making sure he's healthy, but he's an older brother who's loyal. He's got a heart of gold, and he really likes to fight.
I just wanted to learn how to fight with my bare hands.
Through all the boisterous charm he has, he's got this cool, suave demeanor to him, and he honestly doesn't care. He just wants to have a good time fighting. He's just a wholesome boy that wants to get stronger and wants to take care of his friends.
And now look at his bio from the original Persona 3 design works.
Yo, it's cheesy, and Brooke said that she didn't want to do this part because she was tired of hearing her own voice. So now I'm here to substitute for you guys. So here's a lesson about Akihiko. Akihiko was a quiet boy who grew up in an orphanage with his little sister. He met Shinjiro at the orphanage, and the two became close friends. At the age of 9, just before he was adopted by a wealthy family, Akihiko lost his beloved sister to an accident involving a fire. Haunted by the fact that he wasn't able to save his sister, Akihiko became obsessed with gaining strength. He even came to believe that perpetually blaming himself for the loss of his sister was the only way to atone for his weakness he saw within himself. Practical and goal-oriented, Akihiko's confident air and ambitious attitude made him an obvious choice for a role model. This admirable front is just that. However, as Akihiko is obsessed with how others see him.
Does this sound like the same character? Back to his Link episodes, his mischaracterization ruins them for me. Every time one of them would start to get too emotional, the writers feel the need to make sure you don't take them too seriously. Talking about his dead sister? Oops, can't take the comic relief character too seriously, better mention protein. It almost feels as if the game is at odds with itself, trying to make you care about him through the main story while making him the butt of every joke in all of the new dialogue. A part of this, I believe, is due to his social awkwardness. All the way back in the original Persona 3, but primarily in Portable, Akihiko was shown to not always understand social norms or social cues. This was never treated as weird, though, and Akihiko is even shown to be insecure about it in his Persona 3 Portable social link. However, by the time the spin-offs rolled around, the writers decided they needed comic relief, and who better than the awkward, autistic-coded character? The linked episodes themselves are fine, I guess. Mischaracterization aside, they have some sweet moments, but those moments are drowned out by the complete flanderization of one of my favorite characters in the entire series. Moving on from my tangent, you unlock Koromaru's linked episodes next, and despite him being a dog, his linked episodes made me feel more emotional than Akihiko's, surprisingly. They aren't super in-depth due to obvious reasons, but they're still sweet and surprisingly emotional, and focus on his life before you joined your team and started to live at your dorm. And the last character I will go over in this segment is Ken. Though I wasn't the biggest fan of his character before, nor did I enjoy his social link in Persona 3 Portable, I really liked his linked episodes. We get to learn more about him and his emotions regarding things happening in the main story, as well as getting to see him act like an actual kid, which is rare but always appreciated. We also get a name for the hamster that's been in the background of his room for 17 years, and it's Hamburger. So that's beautiful, I think.
Hey, are you guys up there?
Oh yeah! That's a clean hit! The winner is Amada in the blue corner!
So with the 4 Link episodes I can talk about without spoiling anything, 3/4 of them were really good. Definitely better than I was hoping for, though I still wish we got justice for Akihiko. The female party members' social links aren't new, but I'll talk about them here anyway. Yukari's link requires max charm to unlock, and it's one of my favorites in the series. I could go on and on about why I love her so much, but I'll try to keep it brief for your sake. She feels like a real person, is the main reason. Persona tends to fall into the pit of forcing all of its female characters to be perfect waifus, so the people who live in their mom's basement get to pretend they have a girlfriend, and this is precisely why I love her so much. Yukari isn't a perfect person. She can be mean at times, she has emotions that aren't pretty, and she acts like an actual teenage girl. In fact, one of my favorite moments from this social link is one that many people despise. In the original game and FES, you have the option to hug Yukari after she gets harassed by a group of delinquents. For context, this is near the beginning of her link, and she doesn't know you very well yet. She gets uncomfortable, and it stops your link from progressing until you apologize to her. It makes her feel human, and that's what I love about her. This scene was unfortunately removed from Reload, but it added a similar event in its place, so I can't be too mad.
What's that supposed to mean? So what if I'm a girl? Am I supposed to just hide behind men all my life like my mom? Don't mock me like this. I never asked for your help. I'm fine on my own.
Overall, I love Yukari's social link a lot, and it made me fall in love with her character more than I already had. Fuka's social link requires max courage to unlock, and it's okay. You unfortunately don't get to learn much about Fuka herself in this social link. It's more about her cooking.
I used vinegar as a base for relieving fatigue, and then added a bunch of citrus. You know, just some simple, light flavors.
The protagonist taste tests her dishes, and Fuka eventually confesses that she prefers working with machines and technology over cooking. To be honest, I never loved this social link, and Reload didn't do much to improve it. You aren't forced into romance anymore, but that's pretty much the only positive change. Even getting to learn more about her love of technology would have helped, but it's something she confesses near the end of her link, so it's never really elaborated on. I love Fuka, but I wish we got to learn more about her in her social link. Mitsuru's social link requires maximum knowledge to unlock, and I liked hers quite a bit. She's never been my favorite character, but this social link helped me appreciate her a lot more. It elaborates on her life as an heir to an important company, and how she's been forced into an arranged marriage as a result. I don't have much to say about this link other than that I really liked it, and that Allegra Clark absolutely slayed the voice acting.
I said that's enough! I won't let you insult him!
What? Why are you getting so angry?
This is someone I have a great deal of respect for. If you insult him, you insult me!
Aegis's social link unlocks near the end of the game, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's clear that this link was added separately in FES, as its ranks are much longer and more detailed. You get to help her learn more about human emotions and ways of life, and the new friendship ending of her social link actually made me tear up a little bit.
I'm going to keep my memories of everyone alive. Your experiences and feelings will continue to live on inside of me. I will never forget. Even if you all change, or if time ends up pulling us apart.
Her social link fits with the game's themes of life and death perfectly, and both endings of her social link are some of my favorites in the entire series. So, overall, I really liked the girls' links as well. They're not super different from the originals, but the small changes that were added are appreciated and did make a difference for me. There are also brand new dorm hangouts for every party member. Each character gets 6 total, split between either cooking, watching DVDs, reading, or gardening. These were pretty good. A lot of them were fairly basic, but they provided just enough characterization to be interesting in their own right without the rewards they provide. These rewards are leveling up the combat traits I mentioned earlier, though I still think these events are worth doing even if you don't need that edge in combat. These events are all voiced as well, which brings me to my next point. Every social link, linked episode, and dorm event is now voiced. Reload introduced an all-new voice cast, and they really knocked it out of the park. I can't think of a single performance that I have an issue with, and getting to hear some of the previously unvoiced social links speak for the first time made me enjoy my playthrough so much more. I think my personal favorites would have to be Shelby Young's Yuko and Zeno Robinson's Junpei, who turned a character I previously didn't care about into one of my favorites.
I had to listen to Mr. Akoda lecture me for the longest time. He was all like, this rate you'll end up as a good-for-nothing adult, and you're not putting enough thought into your future. Come on, it's way too early to worry about the future, isn't it? We're still just teenagers.
And provided an excellent interpretation on a character I already loved, respectively.
My name's Junpei.
Junpei?
Oh, don't worry, I just want to talk. I mean, it's more fun than standing here all by yourself, isn't it? My name's Junpei.
Junpei?
I was just wondering if you'd be down to talk. If you're not busy. I mean, it's more fun than standing here all by yourself, right?
Though I do have to shout out Alejandro Saab's Akihiko, who I did receive an autograph from. Now, to briefly talk about non-party social links, I still unfortunately have the same problem that I did in FES. A lot of these social links simply aren't super interesting to me. I did enjoy a fair amount of them, though. Yuko, Mamoru, and Akinari are some of my favorites in the series. Kenji and Nozomi were fun to laugh at, and Maya made me physically cringe in embarrassment. But still, a lot of them are overwhelmingly meh to me. They take a story that could have been told in 3 or 4 ranks and stretch it out to 10, making you feel as if you've wasted your time. For example, this guy right here, his entire story is about a cigarette butt found in the boys' bathroom. It goes slightly more in depth than that, but that's pretty much it. Or his fellow student council member, Chihiro? Her story is about how she got accused of stealing club funds, and then she defends student and teacher relationships at the end. Wonderful. I do actually think that voice acting helps with this, though. It makes the scenes that are supposed to feel emotional actually feel that way, and even the uninteresting social links have peak voice acting. However, a remake can't fix every problem the original has, and this is one issue that still bugged me throughout my playthrough.
This is your chance for an all-out attack!
Get ready.
If there's one thing the Persona series is known for outside of its fan circles, I would say it's the aesthetics. From music to menus and everything in between, the game designers know how to make an appealing interface, and Reload is no exception. The game features an all-new soundtrack, and I really like it. The new songs fit in with the game's themes nicely, and the remixed versions of the old songs sound just as good, if not better, than the originals. Some of the new tracks aren't quite my thing, and the audio mixing on a few could be improved, but overall, I'd say I honestly prefer this soundtrack to the original. Another thing I absolutely loved about Reload's aesthetics are its menus. I honestly don't have much I can say about these that I couldn't just show, so I'll show you some clips I recorded now. Each character also has a brand new animation and splash art when you finish a battle with their all-out attack. And not only do these help the flow of battle, they also look very stylish and fit in with each character perfectly. Let me show you a few examples.
Doesn't look like we'll be needing a
Mission complete.
Not even worth mentioning.
The Reload models are also very nice, and are brand new models opposed to simply reusing the ones from the dancing spin-off as many people assumed they were going to do. However, I do have some issues when it comes to the game's animations. Mostly that they can just be very, very repetitive. There are also certain objects that should have models that don't, such as the lighter in this scene. Maybe the real lighter was the friends we made along the way, I guess. The cutscenes are also something I'm mixed about. A lot of the 2D animated cutscenes were replaced by 3D ones, and though these are well done, they can't replace the charm of the 2D animated ones for me. The decision of what cutscenes to make 2D and 3D also seems to be quite random. They made the Awakening cutscene, which is probably the most iconic cutscene in the original game, 3D, but chose to animate this random scene of Yukari taking a shower. Almost all of these cutscenes are beautiful regardless, but I wish there were more 2D animated ones. I'll show you a comparison between the original and Reload's Awakening cutscene so you can see what I'm talking about. But minor complaints aside, I really did love Reload's aesthetics. It's a step in the right direction, and I'm pretty excited to see where the series will go in the future. This is the part of the video where I get into spoilery territory, so if you've not played the game yet and you plan on it, I suggest you stop watching here. 3, 2, 1, you've been warned. The first character I want to talk about here is Ryoji Mochizuki. Ryoji is a character that first appears in November, over 40 hours into the game. He seems like an insignificant comic relief character at first, especially if you don't do his linked episodes, but it is later revealed that he is the Harbinger of Death, or, in language that makes sense, a warning sign of death to every living thing. He lived inside the protagonist for 10 years as death itself, then emerged in November as a teenage boy that felt a strong connection towards him. Yeah, I know that sounds weird, but it's an anime game, you get used to it. It is also revealed that Ryoji and Pharos are the same person, which, if you remember, Pharos was the young boy that was the first character you're introduced to in the game, and he checks in on him from time to time to warn him of vague incoming dangers. I do wish there was a little bit more to this reveal, as Ryoji never really talks about how it felt to interact with Makoto as Pharos, but I like that he didn't completely come out of nowhere. Ryoji is one of my favorite characters in the game, but until Reload, it was mainly because of the Persona 3 movies and the manga. The male protagonist had very limited interactions with Ryoji, to the point that he felt more like a plot device than a character at some points. One of the things I was hoping for the most in Reload is more opportunities to interact with him, and they definitely delivered on that front. His Link episodes were so bittersweet that I was smiling one minute and crying the next. The writing in them truly does make the player feel that the main character and Ryoji are connected in some way even before it's revealed, which the original game didn't do well in my opinion outside of them having the same voice actor.
I never realized any of this until coming on this trip with you. Everything feels that much more fascinating when you're here. I guess you could say it expands my horizons. Time spent talking together with you like this just feels precious to me.
These Link episodes also further elaborated on his canon bisexuality, which is always appreciated.
I want you to know that you're important to me. I know I said I wanted us to be friends, but I actually want to be something more. What about you? I don't really get it myself, but
Excuse me?
I still have the same complaint with him that I did in the original game, though, and that it's you simply don't have a lot of time to get to know him. I understand why he's introduced when he is, but the time between his introduction and his disappearance is only a month. He does come back later in the game for a very important choice, but this is a very short scene. Even with all of his new scenes, Ryoji is still more of a tool to move the plot along than an actual character, unfortunately, but that's not something the remake could have fixed in its entirety. I still think the developers did a lot with what they were given, and his new Linked episodes added a lot to his character, but I just wish we got to see a little more of him. Speaking of Link episodes, though, it's time to talk about the only one I've yet to mention, Shinjiro's. Shinjiro is a character that I hated the first time I played the game. He's rude, blunt, dismissive, looks like he hasn't showered in 13 years, and to top it all off, he was the one that killed Ken's mom. It was an accident, as he lost control of his persona and it went berserk, but he still can't get that guilt out of his mind. It was his social link in Persona 3 Portable that made me fall in love with his character, as it allowed him to show his softer side to the protagonist. With that social link still being my favorite in the series, I was worried about how much I would like his Linked episodes, and while I still think I prefer his Portable Link just a bit more, I absolutely adored them. His Link episodes largely center around the protagonist trying to get him to go back to school, as he dropped out due to the accident. He's very resistant towards this, but as a result of your pestering, you get to learn more about him. And while Portable allows you to learn more about his softer side, Reload allows you to learn about the opposite. He tells the protagonist that he's going to die soon, but that he wants to use his remaining time to set things straight and do what's right. This all culminates on October 4th in-game, where he dies tragically while protecting Ken.
Shinji! Hang in there!
Aragaki! Senpai!
Aragaki-san! What's with the long face? Isn't this exactly what you wanted? It's all right. Hold on to that anger. Let it be your strength. You still got your whole life ahead of you, don't you, kid? From now on, you're gonna have to live for yourself.
But I can't.
Okay. Look after him.
I will.
This is how it should be.
Going into his Linked episodes with this knowledge already made them hurt all the more. His new voice actor, Justice Slocum, did an amazing job portraying Shinjiro's trauma and desire to atone for his past.
I know it seems like I wasted your time, but it's the good memories that stay with you and get people through their struggles. But it's also the mistakes you made that haunt you forever. And gotta use what time I have left to set things straight. I don't have the luxury of doing anything else.
The one thing that these Linked episodes have over the Persona 3 Portable social link for me, though, is that in Portable, getting him to rank 10 meant that he wouldn't die. He would simply enter a coma on October 4th, and it's implied through dialogue at the end of the game that he eventually wakes up. This completely ruins his, Akihiko's, and Ken's developments at the same time. Ken and Akihiko have to learn to cope with the past and face the future, but that feels so much less meaningful when Shinjiro isn't actually dead. Very little dialogue was changed in this route either, so it felt more like an afterthought than anything else. This wasn't transferred into Reload, thankfully, and I think this was for the best. Also, I really wasn't sure where else to put this, but I really wanted to play Akihiko's resolution cutscene after Shinjiro's death. It's one of my favorite parts of the game, and Alejandro Saab definitely nailed the voice acting for this.
Hey. At the usual for lunch. I was wondering what ramen tastes like when you skip class. It's surprisingly good. You could have invited me at least once, you know. Come on, say something. Why do you have to be like that? Always going off without saying a word. Put yourself in my shoes for a change. You think it's the other way around? Yeah, you're right. I was always the one running off on my own. I was too obsessed with getting stronger, ever since I lost Miki. That's all I've cared about. I thought if I was strong enough, I could protect anyone, but I was wrong. And now you're gone too. God, it's like the world is laughing at me. I knew what we were getting into. I knew we were putting our lives on the line, but I was so focused on fighting that I didn't see anything else. It doesn't matter how strong I was. Look what happened! I know, Shinji. Crying won't change anything, right? I don't need you to tell me that. In the end, I can't run away from who I am. I've had enough of this. Rest easy, Shinji. You just watch from there with Miki. I've still got a job to do. Isn't that right?
But there is one character revival that was transferred over, and I'm still a little salty about it. This is Chidori Yoshino, Junpei's girlfriend that works for a team of enemy Persona users. Chidori isn't afraid of death and doesn't know how to feel love until she meets Junpei, and she eventually dies reviving him with her persona near the end of the game.
This might be all I ever needed. Just being in each other's arms. It's nice.
Chidori!
I love you, Junpei. Thank you.
Chidori, you're kidding, right? Chidori, say something, please. Chidori!
This is a very simplified version of her story for time's sake, but it truly is a beautiful and tragic one. Persona 3 FES added the ability to revive Chidori by talking to Junpei on certain days and encouraging him to visit the hospital she was located at. These days are completely random and aren't hinted at by the game at all, so good luck trying to remember them. Reload at least makes this a little less convoluted by instead prompting you to buy a certain flower for Junpei and encourage him to give it to Chidori, but that doesn't make the revival itself any less annoying. As much as I like Chidori, her story works the best if she stays dead. She used her last life energy to revive Junpei, and she says herself that she will live inside him forever. So if she is revived, shouldn't Junpei technically die? She experiences amnesia upon waking up, so it isn't a 100% happy ending, but this is still a small nitpick I have with Junpei's Link episodes and the game in general. I should also probably talk about Strega here, which, despite being the main villains of the game aside from the Shadows and the final boss, haven't even come up in this 30+ minute review. and that perfectly sums up how I feel about them. Strega is a 3-person team of enemy Persona users. Takaya, who is the leader of Strega and believes that Makoto should use his special power to commit crimes and join them, Jin, whose only personality trait is agreeing with Takaya, and Chidori, who I mentioned previously. If it weren't for Chidori, who has an actual beautiful arc with Junpei, I would say that Strega is the worst group of villains I've ever seen in a video game. They're bland, very one-dimensional, and until Reload, their backstory was dropped in the last hour of the game without time to be elaborated on or explained. Reload provides us with new Strega cutscenes and interactions, but none of these really improved my opinion on them. They're still bland and boring to me, and the real interesting villain comes in the form of Nyx. Nyx is my favorite antagonist in the series. She is the being that Ryoji warned us about, and she appears due to humanity wishing for death. Ryoji tells us that she is impossible to defeat, and gives us the option to kill him in order to make Cease forget about her until the day of her arrival. If you choose to kill him, you will receive a game over after a long cutscene, which is oddly terrifying and written very well. If you choose not to kill him though, you will have to fight Nyx on January 31st at the top of Tartarus. After a boss fight with a banger of a theme, you find that your team still hasn't won, but your protagonist performs a miracle in order to defeat her, using the power of the bonds he has formed to obtain the World Arcana and seal Nyx away. Such a fast explanation doesn't quite do this fight justice, but after playing through the entire game, having to fight the incarnation of death itself holds a large significance to it. Some of my favorite lines in the series also come from this fight, but I won't spoil those here. You'll have to play the game yourself to hear them.
Alright, let's do this.
Now, for the final part of my review, it's only fitting to talk about the ending of the game. The ending of Persona 3 has always been quite important to me. It isn't the traditional happy ending you would expect, but it reinforces the game's themes of life and death perfectly. If I had to describe this ending in 2 words, it would be memento mori. To be blunt, the protagonist dies at the end of the game, but it's far from what you would expect of a character death. He dies peacefully, in the lap of Aigis, someone that holds him very dearly. It's more so implied than explicit, to the point that I actually had to break the news to one of my friends that he wasn't just taking a nap at the end. It's almost impossible for me to express the emotions I felt upon watching the ending of this game. I felt lightheaded from crying so much, as stupid as that sounds to say about a game I've already played through multiple times. Since you've already watched to the end of the spoiler section, I'll just play the scene now. But be warned that it is quite long, so if you just want to skip past that to watch the conclusion, please go ahead.
The wind. It feels so nice. I admit, I'm finally noticing the beauty of spring. It's wonderful. And yet, without exception, each and every season will come to an end. We fought side by side. We faced the world's end. And now, I'm finally beginning to understand what it was I'd been searching for. I always wondered what it really meant to live. Now I think it's following your heart, fighting for what you can change, and accepting the things you can't. Nothing on this earth lasts forever. Every life will one day fizzle out. That holds true for all of us, and as soon as you come to terms with it, you realize something. You see what really matters, and find out what it is that gives your life meaning. When I learned that I wasn't strong enough, I was tormented by it. Now I understand why. Protecting others is the duty I was given. But to me, it was more than an obligation. At some point, it became something I wanted to do for myself. Once I decided to try and prevent the fall, something inside me clicked. When I thought about how I might never see you again, that's when I first understood what mattered to me the most. And so, I made up my mind. What I want is to protect you from now until the end of time. I want to stay by your side. And I know I'm not the only one out there who could do this. But still, I want to. Because I'm positive, if I do it for you, then nothing's a waste. My life will have meaning. So, thank you. Sorry. What's gotten into me? It's good. I finally found a reason to live. So why am I... They're here. I see it now. I have friends. We support each other through thick and thin. Not everything needs to be for some greater purpose. Just caring about someone can be enough. That's all we need to give our lives meaning. As for me, I found my path. And that's to protect you with my life. Thank you so much for everything. You must be tired. Go ahead and rest now. I'll be right here. I won't be going anywhere. In a moment, the others will be joining us. It'll be okay. I'm right by your side, here to protect you forevermore.
So, what's my final rating of this game? Did it overtake Persona 3 Portable as my favorite game of all time? Truthfully, it's hard to say. The game is absolutely beautiful and fantastic, but Portable means so much to me that I'm not sure it'll ever be replaced.
You don't have to save the world to find meaning in life. Sometimes, all you need is something simple, like someone to take care of. I'll keep on living no matter what, so that I can protect you.
Personally, I would give it a 9 out of 10. Definitely a must-play, though I do recommend you play Portable for a second playthrough. Thank you for sticking around to the end. I didn't think anyone would actually watch this far unless you're Mr. Montgomery reviewing my video to make sure it's safe to air, in which case I'm so sorry. I know this seems stupidly long for a review of a video game, especially one that I've kind of already reviewed before and made a promo for and talk about quite a bit. But as you can clearly see through my past projects and with how long this video is, it's something that means a lot to me. And it's my senior year, so if I can go out of high school with an hour-long review of a JRPG game for my final, I'd say that's a win. So I guess for the last time, this is Brooke Miller, Persona Girl, signing off.
And subscribe to Cheesy_1 on YouTube.
No!
I'm gonna be back next year. Go subscribe.